next product is our Qube Camera. So this is a relatively new product that we just come out with. The key thing on this camera, it's a non-OGI, non-thermal. It's a visual detection only camera. And the main purpose for this camera is to provide visual context across your site, identify activity and events going on at your site. So it's an HD camera, 1080p resolution. It can do periodic scheduled events or event-triggered capture. It has an AI model that can detect certain objects of interest. So that could be personnel, vehicles, flaring, and so forth. And the key focus for this is it's standalone, solar powered, so it can be deployed anywhere on your site very quickly and easily. And the main use case for it is obviously monitoring your site activity. So any access, flaring, trucks, personnel, truck out. But it also pairs well with our emissions detection products, and it can help provide that additional context to emissions or what was going on at a site during a big emission. And we have some examples that kind of show this. So in this example, I want to zoom in on the tank battery again, or tank farm. So in this example, we have 3 emission events that you can see in our timeline. So these emission events were all localized with the heat map showing as tank 4 to the west of the tank farm. Now, when we talked with their operations teams, there was no clear process data or indication that there would be an emission from tank 4 or from the tank farm. So we were kind of stumped on what was causing the emissions. Now, what we always say, though, is we detect very well. So if there is concentration hits in detection, there is something going on at the site. So we needed additional context. And that's kind of where the camera came in extremely handy in this example. So if you have cameras installed at your sites, again, these triangular devices on the map, you'll have this button available to toggle on the camera timeline. So if I toggle on the camera timeline, you'll see this series, which shows a row per camera. So this site has 5 cameras, and each dot is an image taken by the cameras. As I mentioned, we can program the cameras for just a routine scheduled image, and then they also do exception-based detection based off objects of interest. So what you can see here is the spaced out dots, those are scheduled, and then the more concentrated dots are where we have periods of interest based off of object detection. Now, if you hover on the camera, depending on which one you're on, you'll get this view of the images from the cameras through time. And if you just slide across, you get the updated images. You can also click on the timeline and it'll pull up the camera that you were on, and then you can get a more blown up view of the images, which you can then go forward and backwards through time. Now, specifically in this instance, this is a lot of images to go through. So you can filter to kind of events of interest. And then you can kind of see hovering over it, it brings to the forefront those images that meet that criteria. So in our example, what I'm focused on and what stands up to me is I want to focus on the vehicles. So hovering on this, I can click on that to persist that view. And the first thing that stands out to me in this example is the light blue camera, which is right here looking at the tank farm. And then the second thing that stands out is all of the images from the light blue camera seem to align with those emission events. So when I hover over this, the first thing that stands out is there was a truck during every single one of these emission events. So if I hover over this one, another truck. So you can see the model is identifying it as a vehicle. There's clearly a truck at the truck out. And then similarly for this much longer event, you'll have to bear with me. My computer can be a bit slow, but there's another truck. So this additional context from the camera allowed us to relay that info to operations, which allowed them to identify that there was a small vent tank to the east of tank 4 that relieved during truck out. I had no process data on it, no indication, really no way of knowing if it was venting or not. But it allowed us to identify that there was in fact venting going on during the truck outs, and the camera was able to add that extra context for us to understand where these emissions were coming from. So again, we think this is a great example. Again, the cameras on their own could be standalone to just indicate when you're having trucks arrive at your site or when there's vehicles or access occurring at your site. But again, when paired with the emissions data, it can add that extra bit of context to explain why there are 3 emission events that were previously unexplainable.